All right, this is Patrick Rogers, and today we have the privilege to have Lynn Perenic on as a guest on the show. Lynn is the CEO of Argent Tape and Label, as well as Argent International. Welcome to the show, Lynn.
Hey, welcome, and it's great to be here.
Yeah, very cool. So very special guest today. Lynn started her career as a teacher in the Hazel Park School District in Michigan, where she taught elementary and special education for over 20 years. She holds a bachelor in education and a master of arts in teaching. In 2010, Lynn bought Argent Tape and Label for $1. Okay, going from a teaching career into this, she bought this company for $1. At the time, the company was in dire straits. It was going to be shut down. Since then, Argent Tape and Label has won many awards since that acquisition. Listing among them are the top 50 business to watch in Michigan, the All-Star Award 2 times for being the best of the best in businesses practicing open book management, which we're going to get into, Crain's Cool Places to Work, and was a finalist in the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award. Lynn is now managing not only Argent Tape and Label, she managed Tape and Label, and she just became the majority owner 2.5 years ago of Argent International. And between the two companies, they're doing about $40 million a year in revenue. So Lynn's out there kicking butt, taking names. Lynn, again, great to have you on the show. Before we dive into your journey and your companies, what's one interesting fact that not many people know about you?
I love scuba diving.
Oh, okay. Very cool. How long you've been doing it?
Oh, probably about 20 years. And I actually am a master diver.
Wow. Okay. So you're in Michigan. Do you go scuba diving there in Michigan or?
No.
Okay.
No. No, I actually dive in the Keys, or,
Okay.
go to the Turks and Caicos and other warm places.
Right. Okay. Awesome. What's your coolest diving story?
My coolest diving story was we were in the Turks and Caicos, and as you know, you always have to dive with a dive buddy. And I had this little Jamaican guy that probably weighed 100 pounds, and I'm diving with him, and he swims over, he grabs my hand, and he starts doing this, and I'm thinking, what is that? And then I look, and there's a ginormous hammerhead shark, and he wants me to pull me towards it, and I'm like, I'm really good.
Wrong direction, dude. Wrong direction, brother.
The coral. I want to become one with the coral.
Yeah.
But that was pretty phenomenal to see.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the coolest things that I've seen while diving, is to see a shark that large. That's turtles. Awesome. It's all cool under there.
Yeah, I dive as well, but I've never seen a shark, and I don't know that I want to, but maybe. How big was this thing?
I don't know. He was. I can't
big?
Even. He was big. He was really big. He was this.
Yeah.
Very
cool.
The blue hole was really fun to dive as well. But it's always great to be underneath there. It's kind of quiet and calming. And
gotcha. Very cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. So tell us about Argent Tape and Label and Argent International. Tell us about your companies.
Well, Argent Tape and Label, which I bought it was a very savvy business move.
Mm-hmm.
That I bought for $1. And well, I say that facetiously, in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely knew nothing about business, but I really thought I could save this little company. And then the controller said, you might want to look at the income statement and balance sheet. So I did.
This is after you paid $1 for it.
Of course.
Okay.
And I discovered that I owed $450,000 to Argent International, and that there was a $1.2 million loan between the two companies. So the bank that we had at the time said, you're not Argent International, you cannot lend Tape and Label any money.
Right.
They're a risk, and again, 2010, we were just coming out of the recession.
Right.
So I had to learn. It was actually a great way to learn business, because I had to live on receivables. So I had to be real in touch with cash flow.
You had to get very close to the bootstrapping and look at dot your I's, cross your T's. Where can we go lean, slim down, and still produce a product.
Oh, well, and we're in the printing business, right? So,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you know printing presses, but when you print on one side, you have something called a turn bar that turns the material over so you can print on both sides. So
Gotcha.
I only had one. I had 3 machines, 1 turn bar. So it was like sisters borrowing a dress for a dance. Like, okay, who doesn't need the turn bar? Is press 5 needs it, press 3 doesn't. There was a lot of that because of course the equipment hadn't been maintained.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you handle that? Like what kind of, well, first of all, so Argent Tape and Label, you guys, is there a certain industry you cater to, or a certain niche that you cater to?
Well, at this point, 2023, we have 5 strong verticals, which is something that I really believed was important to making the business sustainable. At that time, and the reason it went down the tube, so to speak, was because they had they were pharmaceutical heavy. They had one major customer
Oh,
that comprised 60% of their business.
yep.
And then that pharmaceutical company decided to pull the business and take it to the East Coast. So that really was the beginning of the end for that.
Yeah, and that's pretty congruent. I mean, it's kind of general rule of thumb in the industry is if you have one of your clients that has any more than 20% of your income, you're at a serious risk.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So take us down this journey then. So what was your journey on turning this thing around?
Well, my first thing was I made every single person in my business, I made a salesperson. So the pressmen, the rewind girls, everybody got a business card. And
Okay.
you're all selling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You go into the farmer's market, you see something, give them a card. And really mostly I embraced the great game of business because I read the book, The Great Game of Business by
Yeah,
Jack Stack.
absolutely. Yeah.
And it really rang true. And to those that don't know about the book, Jack Stack and I think 6 other guys really started their own business.
Yeah.
It was a business unit to save their jobs, and
Right.
they came together and came up with this formula that works, where you actually empower your employees and make them sort of partner in and have that ownership feeling so that they are looking out for your business and they're not the guy saying, gee, if I run this job too fast, I won't have enough work and maybe they'll send me home. So you really had to, I really wanted and needed the buy-in from every single person to save this little company. And they all bought in.
Yeah. So going back to that, you said, you kind of, you had these, you made everybody a salesperson, you had these business cards so how did you go about that conversation, or what did you actually do to, because there's so many people out there, I'm a business consultant, and the whole concept of great game of business, I love the concept, and I'm sure we're going to dig into more of the details, but the hardest part is how do you empower employees to really take that ownership, right? So what was your conversations like with the employees at the beginning and onset of this, when you're handing out business cards and you're on my sales team, go out there and sell? Because most company people will be like, well, why would I, right?
Because at the end of the day, there's going to be a gain share. If there's a gain, there's a
Yeah.
share, and you have to
Okay.
explain that business is a game, and everybody likes to play games, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are components to playing a game. You have to know and teach the rules, and that's your income statement and balance sheet. So that was the first thing I did. Then, know and teach the rules, keep score. And, you need to, if you're at a baseball game, you need to know who's on and who's off and what their stats are. So we kept score, again, income statement and balance sheet. And then the last component is sharing, a stake in the outcome. So we started having weekly huddles where we actually shared the numbers. I'm extremely transparent in what our numbers are and where they
Yeah.
come from, and knowing the story behind the numbers. Early on, one of the first things, well, first of all, since they thought that my business was dying, the accounting thought that it was okay to just give me financials once a quarter. So we had to have a chat about that. But once we got over that, we had, real numbers to share. They were all over it, and I took every suggestion seriously. In the printing industry, when you set up one of those big printing presses, you use 100 feet of material per color. So when you're setting it all up, and that's a cost. So then I had one of the pressmen come to me and say, "Hey, let's go over here to Argent International because we're housed in the same building, and we can use their scrap for our setup, and we can save X." And part of the great game of business and getting people involved is having mini games, setting up little mini games so there are wins, things that you could do.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of our mini games was don't trash the profits, and people like playing games.
Yeah. So tell us more, a little bit more about the mini game, Don't Trash the Profits. How did that work? How did you set it up? And, I know the great game of business, sometimes when you set up a game, there's like a small reward that you guys get. Tell us more about all that.
Well, don't trash the business. Don't trash the business or the profits. It was all about scrap and cost saving.
Yeah.
So we set up little there. It was funky and fun. Because I'm a teacher, people think I'm crazy, but so everybody had a little trash can, and they put their suggestions in the trash cans, and we had a great big poster where everybody, everybody's ideas were written down, and we could calculate how much, if we implemented all of these ideas, from something as simple as turning out the lights and cutting the electric bill, what that actual savings would be. And they started noticing, and in our, manufacturing, scrap is a big deal. So
it's a big deal, yeah.
So they started noticing the scrap and finding ways to cut the scrap, and everybody got involved. It was a very uplifting, very positive experience. When Tape and Label finally hit 10 million in sales this year in 2022.
Yeah.
And it's from when I wisely bought it for $1 and the sales were 790,000. It was a big deal. We had t-shirts that said 10 by 20, and I had World War II planes on the back dropping bombs on a target.
Right.
For 10 million.
That's fun.
So for that mini game, we had a big thermometer, and the March Madness sports blocks where everybody picks a square. So everybody picked a square, and then we had a prize for those who won, who were closest.
Love that.
To winning which day we would hit 10 million.
Yeah.
And that made everyone follow the action and keep score.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So it sounds like there's kind of a few steps. First things is to get them to think and act like an owner. They need to understand the rules of the game. So you had to teach them the rules of the game with respect to margins and profits and exactly how all that works. Very high level, right? And then you guys kind of created a scorecard. How do we keep score? And it sounds like, so what is on that scorecard, and do you guys meet every week and update that scorecard?
Yeah, we do. We meet it's basically our income statement.
Yeah.
How much cash, how many jobs, what's the cost, how many quotes did we have this week? What was the quote turnaround time? Did we, actually meet our goal? Because there was a point during the pandemic when it was more difficult to get material, that it was taking us longer to turn around a quote because we weren't sure about the timing. So
Yeah. So then when you guys do P&L, like, some companies will track like KPIs, leading KPIs or lagging KPIs. The lagging KPIs, I guess, could be the P&L. Are you also tracking things every weekly, like number of sales calls made or presentations given? That's just on a separate scorecard than
Right.
the P&L?
Yes, that would be, yeah, that would be, it's also very visible and discussed in our huddles. New
Yeah, cool.
customers. We
Yeah.
just, one of our customers just had a post on Facebook
Hmm.
that actually called us out as their label supplier.
Mm.
So, so that's really a real positive um, way of marketing your business, I
Yeah,
guess.
absolutely. So talk a little bit about these scorecards, these weekly huddles with the modified, simplified P&L, and then with your KPIs. How does doing that, help you? How does that impact the team?
Well, if you look at go, going well every month, so month, because we've done our business plan, we know
Yeah,
what the monthly nut should be,
right,
and then how close we're going to be to meeting that, right?
right.
We're always playing the game.
Yeah.
So at some point, when we're getting really close to the end, you see that shipping is saying, hey, we can ship out and invoice this. You have the sales service people saying, I'm calling a customer, we have extra parts. Maybe that we produced that they didn't want, but maybe I can sell them at a discount.
Ah.
So everybody gets involved,
So they're kind of working together to how do we make this happen? How do we achieve our goal? And correct me if I'm wrong. So you're doing this scorecard and you're doing this P&L. You're also forecasting,
Oh,
right? Which is
absolutely. A
probably,
plan,
yep.
forecast, and an actual.
How amazing, just for listeners out there, how amazing could it be in your company if you're meeting every week and instead of the forecasting, which normally lies on the burden of the CEO, from what you're saying, your entire team is coming together. They're putting the stats up there of every week we're forecasting out what we think we're going to hit for that month. So then we have a good forecast for what we think the end of the month is going to be, and it gets refined and closer. And then the why we're doing it, why are your people doing it? Well, when they achieve these goals, they're going to achieve their incentivized bucket, right? They're
Exactly.
in
Their
their
gain share. They're going to
gain
get a gain
share,
share.
right? You guys call it gain share. And so it's not anything small though to sneeze at, right? This is are you willing to share what kind of percentages of their salary they might be getting?
Well, it's not of their salary. It's a
Okay.
percentage of the profits after taxes. So
Yeah.
I gain share 24% after taxes with
Yeah.
everybody. So it's equal across the board. So
Oh,
if you're a
okay.
pressman, you get the same as the sales guy, as my
Interesting.
COO. And my thought process on that was, if you're my COO, your salary is at this level, right?
They're already getting that
They're
advanced
already
amount then.
getting that. But the gain share is shared equally because it's the team.
Interesting. Yeah, very cool. Awesome. So I love that. And then they share a stake in the outcome, and then you're using games, you're making it really fun along the way. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. For
Fantastic.
the when we hit 10 million, it was, I think we had Hershey bars that were covered in labels that had like 10 million on it,
Yeah.
and scratch off lottery tickets, and I mean, just fun kind of stuff.
Yeah. So talk about just kind of the culture itself. Cause um I am a believer that a system like this absolutely improves culture and just their passion and just engagement. Talk a little bit about what it was like at the company before and after implementing a system like this.
Well, right now it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Everybody has, I make and give out t-shirts on a regular basis. Before, so okay, let's review. I had 3 people that worked for me in 2011, because the rest had been let go, and and their production schedule was here's the materials that you're going to need, and the plate you're going to need to run, and the inks, and when you're done with that, come back and I'll find something else for you to do. It was there was no rush. If the pressman took all day, it was fine. There was no sense of urgency.
Yeah.
And no one really cared. I mean,
yeah.
And now everybody's hustling. It's, it's absolutely breathtaking to me that the girls up in Rewind, which their song is by Amy Winehouse. They're trying to make me go to Rewind, but I won't go. But anyway,
That's right.
But those girls up there hustle and come up with faster ways to process and get through. They're like, we've got all this work that just came up, from the floor, and we've got to process it. We want to ship it out because we want to make our numbers. There's a big hustle. They work as a team, and they really hustle.
Got it. No, that's
Whereas
fantastic.
before, I think I would call it more of a shuffle.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. And people, many people don't understand it, that this is one of the best ways to get people to think and act and like an owner. And I think that's even one of the great Game of Business's taglines, is to get them to think and act like an owner. And I think that's fantastic.
And we're dog friendly. So that, that adds a whole different layer and element to our business. We have 2 golden retrievers, a Boston Terrier, a French Bulldog, my dog, which is a Havanese, so
how fun.
They're always doing something.
So the dogs, can they free roam, or they have to be on a leash?
No, if they have pretty good manners, they can free roam. The golden retrievers are currently working in tandem to hustle people for treats.
So I'm picturing this, like your manufacturing facility, printing and labeling manufacturing facility. Are there any areas that are dangerous for the dog to be around?
Well, the dogs are primarily in the office area.
Office area only. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Cool.
If only I could teach one of the retrievers to print.
Yeah. There you go.
Press, that would be great.
Get him a hard hat and a yellow
a safety vest.
A safety vest. Yes. Awesome. Okay, awesome. Well, fantastic. So tell us a little bit about Argent International. 2.5 years ago, you took that over. What is Argent International doing versus Argent Tape and Label?
Well, Argent International is like being on a great big aircraft carrier. It's real hard to turn it around. So it's been heading in the same direction for 45 years, which is when it was founded. So my husband founded Argent International in 1979, and he was a one-man show. He sold during the day, and he ran a press. And what Argent International does is they manufacture buzz, squeak, and rattle for the automotive industry. So all the things that make your car quiet and lovely.
Oh, okay, all right.
And he's pre-production. So he was really ready to retire. He just was he needed a rest. Yeah. So he looks at the success of Tape and Label, and he's saying, I got a deal for you. And I said, well, okay, but I need to be the majority because I'm not fixing it and having you come back and mess up what I fixed.
Right.
So and honestly, if he had done that, 13 years ago, I don't think I would have had the same success I'm having now, because there has to be a level of trust built up by the employees. And International is, I think, 160 employees. So it's a lot bigger than 20. Yeah.
And you had to kind of cut your teeth on a smaller company and implement there, which is fantastic.
Yep. So I could see what mistakes not to make when I went over to International. Yeah. So with them right now, again, I get back to scrap and efficiency. It was getting buy-in from the management team, because who's the blonde ponytail and why is she bossing us around? I just had my sales guys are like, they've been there 35 years, 38 years. And imagine me asking them to do a report.
Yeah.
How obnoxious of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had to have a little chat about, I'm not really being micro. You made this plan. I'm just following up to make sure you're doing your plan. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're starting to cut your teeth on Argent International and starting to implement some of these things. It's almost like you're in process of doing it right now. Is that right?
Exactly. Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic. So something came up that many times CEOs, they hear about incentive share programs or gain share programs like this, and you're sharing, I believe it was 24%. The first thing they start thinking of is, well, gosh, man, if I give away 24% of my profits, I'm not going to have anything left. Can you talk to that?
Well, yeah, you have to actually do your budget and figure out if you can, if your plan will support the 24%. And
Right.
if it won't, then you need to adjust the plan. Tape and Label, has always done a budget, and we've always budgeted that in. But if it looks like, we can't make that, then we have to adjust.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so it sounds like, I mean, that's why they call it gain share, right? Is because this is profits that you wouldn't have otherwise had if the team wasn't coming together and performing this extra anyways, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's really, it's making you more money. It's an investment versus a cost.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's and for to be completely honest, Argent International tried being an open book management company back in 2011, and they failed miserably. It was a flat out fail. And so I had to really reflect on, why was it a fail? Look, it's worked so well here. Why can't it work here?
Yeah.
I'm sorry about my dog barking.
That's okay.
And at any rate, the reason it was a fail was because of the rules that they had. They did not gain share evenly, first of all. So if you were a manager, your slice of the pie was bigger than if you were the guy running the press. It was just, and there were so many rules around how they were going to gain share. It was, you had to be there a certain length of time. So if you hired on, it would be 6 months before you
certain
could,
years and months and all that. So you just got rid of all of that. And if you're here at when we give out the bonuses, I don't care how long you've been with us. I don't care what your wage is. Everybody's getting equal slice of the pie.
Exactly. Well, it's dependent, like if you start mid-quarter, because we gain share quarterly, then we prorate. Let's say
that makes sense. I mean, that's fair. Yeah. But really cool.
But that seemed to really work. And I think that, International always looked like, well, if stamping had a $30,000 snafu.
Yeah.
And now we can't make our gain share. Then so there was blaming. There was it was all bad. It was all things you shouldn't do. So, so we sort of scrapped that, and we've started anew.
Yeah. Oh,
fantastic. And the huge thing really for me was getting everybody involved in the business plan.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what's going down.
Right.
It's in the plan. Work the plan.
Yeah, and the more that they're involved in creating that plan, the more ownership they have in it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, fantastic. Awesome, Lynn. Well, fantastic having you on the show. I'd like to just summarize a few of my key takeaways from our time together. One is, from the company itself with Pfizer, is look at your client your spread, and really it's a danger to you. It's a liability to have more than one client that makes up more than 20% of your income. In your case, you had, it was what, 60% before you took over, and so you really had to, regroup. One is, and then the other thing is, how do you get the people on your team to have that ownership mentality, that passion, that fervor, that engagement? And you found that recipe, and one is, first of all, they have to understand how it works, how the game of business works, right? And then number two, and this is all from the Great Game of Business, which I think is a fantastic system. And then number two is keep score. We're looking at a modified, simplified P&L. We're looking at KPIs, and we're forecasting out our performance, and then sharing in the outcome. So why are we doing all this? Is so we know how close we're going to get to being able to, not only for the business to be successful, right, but we're going to actually be able to have control over our bonuses, which is fantastic. And no other types of systems do that. And then also make it fun. You're doing some games with it, and you're celebrating, whatever the prizes are for achieving that. So I love the program. Everything is fantastic about it. Lynn, let me ask you, if there was one takeaway that you'd really want the audience to absorb from today, what would that be?
I would say, don't be afraid of opening your books, but make sure to educate. There's nothing to hide. And people make up stuff. If you're not straight with them and they feel like you're hiding stuff, what they're thinking in their head is far worse than what's actually going on.
Yeah, you're right. I think there's some stats around it. I think that the average person, if you don't tell them, they think you're making like 50% taken home in your pocket of the revenue, and that's just pretty ridiculous. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid of it, but always remember to educate. And I'll say this, I was so impressed that one of my, frontline workers actually found an article on LinkedIn and sent it to me. So that's the kind of involvement you want. Hey, Liz, look at this. We were talking about this at the huddle, and look, here it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's exciting. It's really exciting when you get that level of, involvement and participation, and people can't wait. Again, I'm talking hourly people that really want what's best for the company because it benefits everyone.
Yeah. And we didn't talk about goals. I'll do it real quick before we wrap up, but what's next for you guys? What's next on the horizon?
Well, Tape and Label will be working the 2023 plan.
Yeah.
And I will be working on turning the aircraft carrier around in the Grand Canal.
Yep. Okay.
And really, my ultimate goal is to have both companies become ESOPs, because if you read The Great Game of Business, that is really the end goal.
Yeah, it's a really good fit for it. You're prepping people for it as you're going along, and they're in control of their destiny with an ESOP, very similar to Great Game. Yeah, awesome. Well, great, Lynn. Again, thank you so much for being on the show. This is fantastic. If there's any of our listeners wanted to reach out and get a hold of you for any follow-up questions or use your services or anything, how could they do that?
They could contact me via email, and my email is Perenic, that's P as in Paul, ERENIC at Argent, ARGENT -label.com.
Awesome. Very cool. And we'll have a link to your website if you like, and also your LinkedIn in there as well. So great. Again, Lynn, thanks for being on the show.
It was really my pleasure. And really, open book management is really my passion. So fantastic. It's a joy. It really is a joy, and I'm happy to share.
Fantastic. Please hit the like and subscribe button for our listeners out there and help us spread the word about what we're doing here. And with that, this is Patrick Rogers, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks a lot.